Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwin, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about chaos as we get into chaos cults. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day, and if you have any suggestions, comment down below. If you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can create videos every single day. If you want to support, link in the description. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Chaos Cults. Chaos Cults are the most dangerous of all those organizations that plot to overthrow the rule of the Imperium from within. All planets and civilizations belonging to the Imperium can harbor a chaos-tainted organization, which themselves are as diverse in practice and membership as imaginable. From the blood-soaked sacrificial cults of Pharaoh worlds to the philosophical secret societies of more advanced planets, the temptations of chaos can capture all. The objective of a chaos cult is to survive and eventually dominate the society in which it dwells. Mere survival is particularly important on Imperial worlds, where chaos worship is the greatest of heresies, and Inquisitors are always vigilant and ready to wipe out any taint of chaos. Generally secretive in nature, as discovery could bring with it attention from the local Adeptus Arbites or all the way up to the Inquisition, cults often hide behind the front of some form of legitimate Imperial organization in their attempt to accumulate local or planetary power, such as trade unions, charitable organizations, accepted religious groups, and even local variants of the Imperial cult. Extreme political parties make good fronts for cults, as they naturally attract power-hungry and mentally unbalanced individuals who make particularly good material for potential cult members. A very successful organization can achieve real political power, even gaining enough strength to make it possible for the cult to become a governing body of the planet, without having to resort to outright rebellion. After taking root, and as it expands in power and influence, eventually a chaos cult may end up effectively ruling anything from a township to the entire planet. Eventually an uprising will break out, either purposefully or because the cult has grown too large or unruly to remain secret any longer. At this point, the cult can be expected to summon aid from their chaos masters, ranging from demonic possessions of cult members to the outright summoning of members of the traitor legions. Cults may also unleash an uprising in concert with a pre-planned demonic incursion. The ultimate aim of a cult's uprising is to overthrow the Imperial planetary government and attain direct control over the world. After the conflict, cultists are often taken back into the Eye of Terror, where they either join the damned population of a demon world or are recruited into a Chaos Champion's armed forces as an auxiliary of a warband. The origins of new Chaos cultists are legion. The teeming masses of the Imperium have colonized the galaxy from end to end. Trillions of souls labor night and day in an increasingly hostile universe. Kilometer-high hive cities boil with overpopulation. Dense have complexes sprawl across the continents, and industrial worlds grind and churn by the efforts of uncounted workers under the steel gaze of high-handed overlords. But the adepts of the established order cannot be everywhere at once. A regime as restrictive and oppressive as the Imperium provides fertile ground for insurrection. There are those that would foster this discontent for their own black ends. Rebellion festers in the underbelly of almost every civilized Imperial world, a fire just waiting for a spark. Where the flames of heresy are given fuel, chaos is quick to follow, turning desperate men into worshippers of the dark gods, and the easy path to power and wealth they promise. In one form or another, chaos cultists can be found almost anywhere in the Imperium. At first glance, they are indistinguishable from normal men and women, but under their clothes, their flesh is tattooed and branded with sigils that hurt the eyes of any faithful who would look upon them. Improvised armor is donned, and long-hidden weapons are broken out as the cultists prepare to overthrow the Imperium, one half-block at a time. Ragtag companies band together under the demagogues that arrive in their midst, for the everyday life of an Imperial citizen is usually hopeless, so hopeless that even the hints of a new order can be intoxicating. When open war breaks out, screaming gangs of cultists rush into battle armed with primitive solid-shot weapons, the largest of their numbers donning heavy stubbards and industrial flamers. Despite their primitive war gear, chaos cultists are often able to drown a superior foe through sheer weight of numbers and a fierce desire to tear open the belly of the Imperium. As the witch-hunting Ordo Hereticus is always keen to point out, chaos cultists can come from almost any background. Psychotic soldiers, cutthroat hive-gangers, decadent nobles, Astra Militarum deserters, persecuted abhumans, and sewer-dwelling mutants all turn to the service of chaos in order to improve their lot. After all, even a man who has nothing left to give can still barter away his soul. The mutational gifts received by most powerful cultists can be just as strange as those granted by their Chaos Space Marine masters. A favored devotee might have muscles of living steel, flailing sucker tentacles in places of tongue, or the horned head of a mindless beast. Regardless of their background, each of these dangerous malcontents train their mind and body for the day when the favored of their gods will lead them to a darkly glorious future, when they can rise up against the hated order of the Imperium and set the galaxy aflame. Of all the various organizations found within the Imperium that exhibit signs of chaotic touch, few were as prominent as the blighted Death Priests of Mir. On this Nurgle-infested world, the squalid denizens forayed aimlessly amidst the endless pools of festering muck and decaying vegetation, their diseased bodies enduring solely due to Nurgle's unnatural ministrations. Perhaps the most dangerous of these were the so-called Death Priests, who preyed upon their fellow citizens in order to perpetuate their disgusting adulation of the Plague God's bountiful corruptions. Death Priests feed on the bodies of their victims in order to nourish their parasites, diseases, and other foul poxes that wither in their bloated guts. They believe that this affliction is a blessing of the Plague Father. On the planet of Mir, they see it as their unholy duty to hunt down the so-called Pyrons, the clean ones, and devour them. After slaying any foe, they usually gorge themselves on every scrap of substance to feed their ravenous diseases that rack their ghoulish form. These warriors are highly prized within the debased warbands of the Screaming Vortex, and many opportunistic slavers exploit their infamous thirst for slaughter by luring these voracious killers off-world with promises of fresh carcasses to consume. Another chaos cult devoted to Nurgle is known as the Unbound. Originally, they were troopers of the Acadian 969th Regiment, deployed to Certus Tertaria during the Gothic War. They contracted a plague born on the planet's water, quarantined, and refused permission to return to their homeworld of Cadia. The troopers of the 969th turned their allegiance to the Lord of Decay. The cult is led by the regiment's former colonel, Abner Veracus, who styles himself the False Castellan, as he was once a favored candidate for the esteemed post of Lord Castellan of Cadia. The Unbound now inhabit the hellish realm of the Eye of Terror. There they are garrisoned in a corrupted hive world of Albatroth, whose vital manufactorums make war gear for several armies of chaos, including the armor plating worn by members of the Unbound. The cult symbol mimics the symbol of Nurgle, 3 skulls inside an inverted triangle. Across the galaxy, the nomads of the feral world of Zurond, known as the Zur, continually migrate across the vast prairies of the planet's surface, seeking only to enslave and conquer any tribes they encounter. It is a brutal existence, and the planet-wide struggle for dominance continues until winter, when the Zur focus instead on surviving the harsh conditions, or ritually honoring their bloody god Baftar, who is in reality the blood god Khorne. Through a show of skill, determination, and daring, a man or woman becomes a Frostfather, a title to the position of leadership amongst his tribe. He earns the right to lead his warriors into battle during the winter season. They are stubborn, willful, and belligerent warriors, difficult to command, but fearless in battle.
For those afflicted by mutation, hope is a luxury long since cast aside. It is a constant problem in the Imperium, often the results of toxic manufacturing by products and ancient radiation hazards deep in the hives. Hivers are taught from birth to hate and shun the mutant, a common decree from the pulpit. They know that mutation is an outright sign of an evil nature, a punishment, and a mark of sin. The touch of chaos and exposure to the warp causes mutations as surely as any toxic hazard. No matter the source, a hiver with a minor mutation might attempt to hide it and go about his life, but always know even his family would turn on him should they discover the truth. Mutants are common in the underhive, where dangerous environmental pollutants combine to result in horrifically unstable genes. Entire mutant populations gather and thrive in these dark reaches. Certain manufactorums in the lower high levels, collectively degenerated as blighted factories, tolerate mutants among their workforce. Even by hive standards, these laborers are treated brutally. Within the main hive, mutants must be cautious, as wandering into the wrong hab might get them attacked and burned alive. It is no surprise that many discard their oaths and flee down hive. Isolated in the dark, they often become the flesh-eating monsters that hivers assume them to be. Down in the underhive, you always have a collection of individuals or cults that center around the mutations of the flesh, such as the Callers of Sorrow, who offer a natural home for mutants whose deformities are an obvious symptom of the hive's decay, and hail them as blessed flesh-spent. Mutants are motivated to join these cults because of the hatred they feel for the hive that persecuted them. Others simply to be amongst like-minded souls and individuals who care not for or even celebrate their mutations. Worse still are those who become mutants in the course of the service of these cults, who are often cults of Nurgle. As cult members partake further in the worship of the Lord of Decay and the rituals of the warp, their flesh rebels at the unnatural influence of the immaterium. Many cultists view these mutations as blessings from the gods of chaos, and as they pay their respect to the Lord of Decay, the gifts often include withering tentacles, jointed eye stalks, extra heads, bestial features, or crowns of flickering balefire. Some are grotesquely altered creatures, beyond even the horrifics of mutant wretches. With no place in society, it is natural that they flock to the chaos cults. While some retain their minds, at least as much as the servants of chaos can, others are afflicted by madness and mental decay. They are often a great asset to the cult for their ferociousness in battle, but of little use otherwise. Depending on the nature of their physical mutation, such dim-witted or insane creatures might be given a place of respect amongst the cult. Known as favored by the Father, their nonsensical ramblings are taken as prophecy, and they act as advisors to the cult leadership. Some mutants grow to inhuman size, their profane nature marked by impossible masses of muscle and dense flesh. The cults actively seek out these creatures for their sheer physical bulk, their misshapen bodies, a reflection of their pestilent father's corrupted bounty. The mutants known as necrophages are hideous creatures who have taken on diseased and even necrotic appearances. In the most extreme cases, they must even feed on human flesh to sustain their own decaying forms. They are especially favored within cults, who see them as the most blessed of Nurgle's mortal children. The mutants, known to some as toxers, often thrive amidst the noxious chemical lakes of the dark. These impossible creatures' twisted forms exude blighted chemicals, fatal to normal humans, and often house hideous nests of twisted vermin in place of internal organs. Usually found within the highest ranks of these cults are the Psykers, who do not submit to the black ships of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica. They are universally dangerous, for even the least of them can still be the doom of an entire world. Every unprotected mind is a potential gateway through which the demons of the warp can enter reality. Unsanctioned Psykers can hope for no peace in the worlds of the Imperium. Eventually their nature is discovered, and they must fight or flee death by fire at the hands of a fearful mob. Some turn to the dark gods, for chaos promises a path to power and perhaps even safety. A cult is one of the few places where rogue Psykers are welcomed. The mutant cults in particular seek them out eagerly. From minor warp callers to terrifying warp priests, they often are used in cult rituals to beseech the Plague Father for new blessings to inflict on their foes. It is always a great benefit for a mutant cult to worship chaos. The ruinous powers reward their followers with all manner of gifts. They twist bodies and minds in ways impossible to imagine, perhaps adding acidic saliva, an exoskeleton of red-hot rocks, or leathery wings. To follow the path of chaos is to accept these gifts, no matter what deformities they bring, for at the end, it is the ultimate blessing of an ascension to a demon prince. There is, however, only so much mortal flesh can withstand before sanity and physical control is forever lost. If a mortal is not transformed into a demon, there comes a time when the mutations become overwhelming and he becomes a spawn of chaos. A spawn is a monstrous sight, each a unique, gibbering mass of tissue that should not possibly live, but still does. Powered through the unholy energies of the dark gods, some might have multitudes of oily tentacles, or have grown insectoid eyes, or even sprouted a new face along their body that screams their pain with each emotion. Mutant cults often have small numbers of spawn chained in the lower depths of their strongholds, where they are worshipped as divine revelations of the power of chaos made manifest. Often the spawns are fed with captured enemies, or set loose to cause terror as part of a large cult to action.
And those were 40 facts on the Chaos Cults. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can create these videos every single day. If you want to support us, link in the description. If you can't, we understand simply by liking, commenting, sharing. It helps out the channel. So go down there and comment what other topics you guys would like us to cover. But with that said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.